good example of a digital marketing strategy, loosely defined versus tightly defined, is how I approached my own speaking business. So I've been on social media for a long, long time, way too long. And I've been on every social network. I also do some Google ads for my speaking business. I have a website. So I have an integrated multi-touch point strategy to build my own personal brand. And before I really stepped back and thought about it, my original goal and objective was kind of simple, right? I said, well, look, what am I trying to do, right? Ultimately, I want people to hire me for stuff. So if I'm out there and they think I'm smart, they'll probably hire me for stuff. That was probably my non-formally stated strategy. So the idea was, well, if I build my reputation as an expert and I reach a lot of people, over time that will grow my business. And that's what I would say is a loosely defined strategy. It's not untrue, but what is it I really want to have happen? Who do I really want to speak to? And how do I create meaningful content? So I stepped back and I thought about, okay, what are the steps to building a strong strategy? And so the first thing I said is, like, what do I even want to have happen, right? So, hey, people think I'm smart and they'll hire me, but like, for what? So I said, let me try and use this very specifically to grow my paid speaking business. So now I had a very, very, very specific strategic thing that I was going to use social media and digital marketing for. So now I had a very specific strategy. Before, when I just said, well, if people are smart, they'll hire me, I didn't do things like run Google ads, which is actually one of my most effective channels, because I didn't have a clear vision of what I wanted to be hired for. When I got more specific about my goal and I was forced to really write down my goal, now I can say, this is what I want people to pay me money for. And now I can easily justify more investments and more touch points. So that was the first thing. I want to get paid speaking engagements. So how do I do this? Well, the second thing I said is, okay, what's the strategy and who's the target audience? And for me, these steps went a little hand in hand, because the first thing I had to think about was, well, who even books somebody to speak? And the challenge is, it's everyone and no one. It can be a volunteer in an association. It could be a corporation. It can be someone in HR. It could be the random person tasked with organizing an event. It could be the CEO. It could be a meeting planner. So there's all these different people. But I said, okay, let me choose who I think is most reasonable as a starting point. And we said, let's go after meeting and event planners, because they're probably in a position to make some recommendations. So now I have a clear strategy. The way I'm going to get more speaking engagements is by building my reputation with meeting and event planners. Now I can say, okay, what are my objectives? What is it that I want to tangibly achieve to make this happen? So I want to become a top influencer in the LinkedIn groups that they're in. I want to drive traffic to focused blog posts. So not just random, here's some social media tips, but focused blog posts that really position me as the perfect speaker for an event. And I want to increase leads ultimately from my website. So now I'm able to say, okay, I know exactly what I want to do, and I know how I'm going to do it. Then, instead of being on Twitter and using all these different channels, which I still did use a little bit, I was able to really hone in on a couple of channels because I was so clear on who I needed to reach and where I could reach them. So then, instead of doing everything, I started focusing in on my blog and LinkedIn groups. And what was really interesting to me was I had been on social media and a variety of digital channels in probably a bigger capacity for a long time, and I could never really say that I got much of a tangible benefit. Yes, building your personal brand is important and has benefits over time, but I was missing that really, tangibility behind it. By employing this much more focused strategy for only 3 months, I was able to get measurable results, and I had 3 paid speaking engagements from it. Plus, I booked 2 webinars with trade organizations that I had been trying to get in front of for years. So by honing in on what it was that I really wanted and how I thought I would get there, rather than doing a bunch of stuff that none of it seemed awful, right? Rather than just being on Twitter and on Facebook and here and there, I was able to really use a few tools well. Then we started to expand the strategy. Now we have a full digital strategy with multiple touch points, marketing automation, CRM, all this stuff built in. But the point is that it all started with clarifying the strategy. And so what I think of it as kind of lazy strategy is when you keep it at this high business level and say, well, I want people to hire me for stuff. So if I talk about the stuff I'm good at, they'll see I'm good at it. And over time, I'll get business. That's somewhat true. But if you can get more specific and focused, that's when you'll get the best results. And that is exactly what we'll uncover in the digital strategy training program.